Welcome to the Brew Crew Review Podcast, the show by fans for fans of your Milwaukee Brewers.
All right, Brewer fans, welcome to the Brew Crew Review Podcast with myself, Craig, and Vince, your host, joining you today. Vince, how are you? Happy holidays.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, Craig. Yeah, doing great. Do we have Scotty or Chad on for our breaking news episode here today?
I think they're still out collecting gifts. I'm not sure, saving Christmas or something. Anyway, we had told our listeners that this would be our Christmas episode, but that's still forthcoming on our next one. This one is kind of a breaking news segment, and we had just found out that the big trade went down. Devin Williams has been traded to the New York Yankees in exchange for left-handed starting pitcher Nestor Cortes and right-handed hitting infielder prospect Caleb Durbin. So that's the details, and that's the breaking news. The Yankees are also kicking in $4.5 million into the deal. I guess I'll let you start off, Vince. What are your initial thoughts of the trade?
Well, I think that $4 million did just get corrected in the last literally 3 minutes, Craig, to $2 million. I think that the MLB Trade Rumors is reporting that was misreported, that it was 4. So I think we're at 2 as a profit on the trade. Just to be clear on the actual return. I know from our pre-production meeting, our brief pre-production meeting, that you and I have different reactions to this trade. First of all, I wanted to keep Devin Williams, just for the record. I thought that he would be, the consistently amazing reliever at the back end of our bullpen that we've had for, his entire career in Milwaukee, dating back to 2019. And I thought that, Devin anchoring that back end would shorten the games for our starting pitchers. And I think that, that is still true. But I'm not unhappy with the return itself if we were going to trade him. We were dealing from a strength, so I think that the bullpen is still very strong in Milwaukee. I do think that we've got guys who can step up. I've got a lot of faith in Trevor McGill. I am very excited to see what Jacob Mizorowski can bring to the bullpen, which is where I do think he's going to be slotted into. And we've also got Abner Uribe coming back from an injury, not to mention all the guys that were part of our bullpen last year that are coming back, which I believe is everybody outside of most likely Hobie Milner and now Devin. The return itself, one of the reasons I'm excited is I think that from what we heard from our anonymous source, Tom Carter, the Brewers were actually really in on Garrett Crochet, who ended up being traded to the Red Sox from Chicago over the winter meetings over the last couple of days. I don't think that Nestor Cortes.
Oh.
Yeah. Tom told us that the Brewers were in on Garrett Crochet, but they offered a package that was just a little bit less in terms of prospect capital than the Red Sox did, and that came right from Tom Carter, our inside anonymous source. And Nestor Cortes is not at the same level as Garrett Crochet, just to be clear. But I do think that Nestor Cortes has a lot of value for the 2025 Brewers in the starting rotation, and was kind of interested. Some of Scotty's interns were just handing me some of his numbers from last year. He posted a 3.77 ERA, which is serviceable for sure, especially considering that he's going to be, I think, probably our third starter, maybe our fourth starter even. And his WAR was actually higher than Garrett Cole's last year by a pretty significant margin. A 2.6 WAR compared to 2 for Cole. So I was kind of excited to see some of his numbers. I do think he's going into his age 30 season. He pitched over 174 innings last year, even through a complete. Well, let's see. I don't know if he actually had a complete game, but he's known for being a pretty durable pitcher. So I'm not opposed. It's a 1-year deal as well. So I know he's had a bit of an injury history the last a couple seasons, but I think that, given the fact that we're only on the hook for him for 1 year is probably good. But overall, I think that he's going to plug in nicely for our 2025 Brewers starting rotation. The other reason I like the deal, Caleb Durbin, I think that he's exciting. The Brewers always surprise us by going off and getting, guys that are, at positions that we don't really have a need for. So that continues with this trend, considering that he's coming up through the minor leagues playing second base. He certainly fits the Brewers mold, though. Led AAA in stolen bases, I believe, last season. He had 31 in 2024, so that's pretty exciting. At 36 last year. So he's definitely a guy with some speed. Where he's going to slot in with the Brewers, I think still remains to be seen. I personally would prefer that they keep Bryce Terang at second base most likely, but I do think that there's the possible option at least of moving Terang over to shortstop and plugging Durbin in at second. And then I don't know what we're going to do with Joey Ortiz if he's possibly moving somewhere else as well or staying at third base. But I think that Durbin adds some talent to that infield mix. So for all those reasons, I'm not opposed. I think that the biggest drawback on the trade for people who don't like it is that they think that we could have gotten a bigger return. But, I think that we probably tended to overvalue maybe what we had in Devin just a little bit, just in the sense that he was coming off a year with a, significant amount of time lost to injuries. Obviously an outstanding reliever, obviously a ton of talent, but he's also only under contract for one more year and missed a lot of time last year with his back injury. So for those reasons, even though I wish we would have kept him, I'm not upset at what we got back today.
All right, very good summation of the trade, Vince, for our listeners. I will say that I sent out some texts to, of course, fellow members of the Brook Review and whatnot via text. I did get a reply back after expressing that I was not a huge fan of the trade to our minor league analyst, Brandon, and his response, and as a direct text quote, was, "I trust Arnold a lot more than you."
Yeah, he's not wrong, Craig, because you have disliked virtually every trade that the Brewers have made, and Matt Arnold continues to win Executive of the Year awards. The Brewers continue to go to the playoffs. So
that's what I was going to mention. Okay, so in spite of my initial being offended by Brandon's text, I do recognize the fact that Matt Arnold was the MLB Executive of the Year, backed up by Baseball America, and obviously he's earned that right. With that being said, this to me, I'll just start by saying it was an interesting trade, and it's the type of trade that really doesn't happen that much. It's closer to like a fantasy baseball trade than it is a real life trade, because a lot of times you don't have contenders trading with contenders for pieces that aren't really prospects, so to speak. And in my opinion, that's what this type of trade was. So that's very interesting because as Brewer fans, you're used to two kind of trades. When we're rebuilding, we trade away guys for prospects, and when we're contending, we trade away our prospects for guys to kind of go for it. But there are other types of trades out there that Brewer fans aren't used to. This is one of them. However, I'll start by saying that one of the reasons that I don't love the trade, even though I also don't hate it, is the fact that I felt that we did not get a full return on Devin Williams' value. That's just the plane of it, I guess. And again, as a Brewer fan, you're like, well, maybe we're inflating his value. He's coming off an injury-riddled season, and he blew the playoffs, basically. With that being said, he has one of the most devastating pitches in all of baseball. Currently, he is, without doubt, a top 3 in all baseball closer and has a ton of value to a contender. With that being said, He does have some similarities as Nestor Cortes. I was not expecting someone like him back, but they're both age 30, going into age 30 season. They both have 1 year of arbitration eligibility left. And they're both coming off kind of injury-prone seasons in 2024. Now, Nestor Cortes did throw a good number of innings, I think 174 innings last year. However, he did leave and was injured with a flexor strain down the stretch of last year. And so much so that when he came back for the World Series run for the Yankees, he only pitched out of the bullpen. So that's worrisome.
I think that was more a product of the Yankees schedule and the lineups they were facing partially, though, Craig. Even though I am not a Yankees fan, thank you, I did look at and watch quite a few of their games, especially down the stretch. And I think that they actually slotted him in based on opponents, and it was just sort of the way that things worked out. So I don't think that they were really trying to move him to the bullpen at that point. He did make 30 starts last year for the Yankees.
Well, yeah, but flexor strains can be precursors to Tommy John surgery. So this is my concern, dude. And Devin Williams has recovered from his injury. And he's just a more valuable piece to a contender. Now, how much more valuable than even if Cortes comes back and proves healthy, he's basically, on a contender, a mid-rotation starter, which is great and very valuable. We just saw what Max Fried went for to the Yankees in free agency, a boatload of money. Yep. So he does have a ton of value that way. Is he more valuable to a contender than a top three in all baseball closer? My opinion, no. And to offset that difference in value, I guess we've acquired Durbin, who, again, was not in the Yankees' top 30 prospects. However, he just did have a really nice little season in the Arizona Fall League and whatnot. So we'll talk a little bit more about him. But overall, since you're mentioning that, put your hat on as if you're a Yankee fan for a second, Vince. What is your thoughts on this trade as a Yankee fan, or what would Yankee fans be thinking about this trade?
Yeah, I think Yankee fans will be excited about it, but I think that they also have a better starting rotation than we do, so they can afford to take from a position of strength for them, which is the rotation, and add to a position that I think is weaker for them, which is their bullpen, and getting a guy like Devin. They're not worried about the money part, so they're not worried about the extra $2 million being sent to Milwaukee, so I'm sure that they're probably happy about that. All in all, again, you have to trade from your strengths to a point, and I think that the Brewers did that by trading from their bullpen, and that the Yankees did that by trading from their starting rotation.
Interesting. And that's how it kind of trades. I do agree that this is a trade that can work out for both clubs and kind of makes a lot of sense. With that being said, if you're a Brewer fan, if you're really trying to figure out who's going to win this trade in the long run, if you're a Brewer fan and you're trying to sell yourself on this trade, you can certainly do so. If you're a Yankee fan, you're absolutely ecstatic because the fact that you gave away stuff that you considered borderline garbage or unnecessary pieces for a lockdown closer. As a contender, you're doing backflips if you're a Yankee fan. So if you're a Brewer fan,
it's not as simple as winning a trade, Craig. It's not as simple as winning a trade. It's about winning a season. So I think for the Brewers, again, I think that getting a prospect back is actually a pretty big deal. And in this case, an infield prospect. And despite the fact that we like to think that we've got this figured out between, Terang and Ortiz and a couple other guys, we just lost Willy Adames. Like, he just signed with the Giants. I know everyone's saying, oh, well, it was an expected loss, but it still is a huge loss for the infield. So I'm glad that we're going out and getting a piece for our infield that I think could have an impact next year. So I don't view it in those terms. And I don't think that the Yankees have to win a trade or the Brewers have to win a trade for the other team to lose a trade or vice versa. Like, I don't think that every team or every trade, I should say, comes down to one side has to win and one side has to lose.
Well, yeah, no, this is definitely, like I just said, look, this is a trade that could benefit both teams. However, the best player in the deal is Devin Williams, and the Yankees got him. There, I'll say it.
Well, I will agree with that, and I wanted the Brewers to keep Devin, just for the record. I thought that as we talked about in our last podcast, my preference with Devin Williams would have been that we keep him, we hold on to him, and we've got that that last three innings of a game locked down between Devin and hopefully a healthy Uribe and McGill. So basically, now we've added another inning that we've got to somehow cover from the bullpen. I mean, that's what it comes down to me. But maybe you replace Devin's arm out there with a guy like Mizorowski. That's a lot of ifs because he's a rookie, but I think he's got the talent to do so. So, are we able to essentially, and I'm not saying necessarily as the closer, but I'm saying, how do you get from a starter hopefully going, say, 5 good innings, you've got to cover to get through the ninth, right? So you got to figure out 4 innings. And I think, we lose an inning because of losing Devin, but are we able to make that back by a guy like Mizorowski? Are the Brewers close on another trade for another bullpen arm? Are we going to invest the money that we are going to spend this offseason in the bullpen? Like, there's a lot of, ifs there, but I'm just saying, I don't want to do this trade.
One thing you're projecting is that you kind of, where are you trying to imply that, in your opinion, there's a good possibility that Jacob Mizorowski could end the 2024 season as the Brewers closer?
2025 season. Yeah. I'm saying he could end it as the 8th inning or 9th inning guy. I don't know if it truly matters, because don't forget, we were pretty upset just 2 years ago when Devin Williams became our closer when we traded Josh Hader. So Devin Williams has an amazing run as a Brewer, but more than half that time he was doing so as the 8th inning guy or something else in the bullpen. He first made, he was first called up to Milwaukee in 2019, won the Rookie of the Year as a setup guy in 2020, was still a setup guy in 2021, was still a setup guy for the first half of 2022, and then he only takes over as the closer when Josh Hader's traded. So I could see Mizorowski certainly doing something similar for the next 2 seasons, or becoming the closer, and McGill's still in that 8th inning role like he was when Devin was healthy the last 2 years. So I think that the bullpen has a lot of great pieces in it still, even after this trade, and I think the Brewers traded from a position of strength.
Yeah. So Devin Williams was Rookie of the Year, and he followed that by back-to-back, I believe, MLB Reliever of the Year awards. That's all, and it's all because of his airbender pitch, really. And Jacob Mizrowski, as awesome as he possibly can, his potential, I don't think necessarily has one standout pitch like that. And I don't think, with that being said, yeah, I'm very excited to have him part of a bullpen if he becomes that.
But neither did Hader, Craig. Neither did Hader, and neither does Emmanuel Clase. Like a lot of good closers don't necessarily have it. Yeah, the airbender is an amazing pitch, no question about it. But he also was going to be a free agent at the end of the year, and we don't know like what could happen. Maybe because of the injury history, but maybe just because of the market. We held on to Hader until the deadline in 2022, and you saw, and you were part of it. We were both part of it. What happened when you traded an all-star closer during the season when you're a contender? I think that there's a very good chance that the Brewers will be a contender again in 2025. And we saw how that clubhouse went pretty sour after we traded our all-star closer in the middle of that season. And Brewers brass admitted afterwards that they didn't understand fully the impact that was going to have on the clubhouse. So maybe they want to do those types of trades during the offseason now. Maybe that's a new organizational mentality. I don't want to speak for them without talking, to more people after we use our press passes at this press conference announcing the trade later tomorrow. But I just am saying that I think that maybe the Brewers didn't want to wait until the All-Star break or the trade deadline to make a trade like this time.
Oh, I 100% agree with that. And that, to me, is a smart move. And I know going into this, if you listen to the last podcast, I'm a proponent of them trading Devin Williams because of the fact that I know that the Brewers have a great track record and have faith that they can turn out another really top quality closer from within their talent of their organization that's already in place. And a lot of guys that you mentioned, Mizrowski, Uribe, McGill, there's a couple other possibilities even, but so it made perfect sense for a small market team to trade a closer at this. I just don't, my problem with the trade is I don't think that they got full value for Devin Williams. If you want to blame that on the injury, if you want to blame it on him blowing stuff in the playoffs, if you want to just blame on that Arnold having some infatuation with Durbin or whatever, that's just my summation of the trade. It could be wrong. I hope I'm totally wrong, but that's my gut knee-jerk reaction for this trade. With that thing said, now that brings us to Caleb Durbin. Caleb Durbin was drafted, I think, in 2021 in the 14th round by Atlanta Braves. He was traded from the Braves to the Yankees for a left-handed middle reliever, Lucas Ludwig, a couple years ago, and he's been kind of blossoming in the minor leagues of the New York Yankees, mainly with his great hit tool and his on-base skill. So his number one skill is not striking out. Now he is 5'6", and in my opinion lacks power. To the point he lacks enough power to not be profiled as a regular major league hitter, except possibly at like the Keystone. But even then, he does have a lot of speed, like you mentioned. He just broke the Arizona Fall League record. He's been in the Arizona Fall League both the last 2 years. He stole 21 bases there in the month and a half last year, and this year he's 29 stolen bases, which broke the record of 25 in the Arizona Fall League. So he's got a lot of speed. This is cool. I don't think he's got more than like 10 home run power, which again does not profile as a third baseman, in my opinion. Now, like you said, the Brewers could shuffle around the infield, but in reality,
he did hit 10 last year in the minors, but I still think he's young enough to be developing. So just pointing that out, he did hit 10 last year. And how many at bats did he have? 335 at bats, 90 games.
Yeah.
So not great.
I mean, maybe there's
not Jimmy Gannon power.
No, I mean, so he's got a little bit of pop, but for the most part, he just, in today's Major League Baseball, he just doesn't profile as a regular hitter to me. I hope I'm wrong on that, obviously. Defensively, again, his number one asset besides the strikeout to walk ratio, which is phenomenal, his batting eye, is his versatility, which the Brewers absolutely love as an organization. Again, there's little arguing against that with the success they've had in the last couple of years. So this guy has played second base, shortstop, third base, and both corner outfield spots in the minor league in the last couple of years. He was playing third base in there's a ball league. Obviously I wasn't prepping for this trade, but it definitely is a good thing. With that being said, from what I've read from his scouting profile, scouts do not think that he has enough of an arm to play shortstop at the major league level, which also leads me to believe he may not have enough arm to cover third base, which leads him back to second base. Again, we have a Gold Glove winning second baseman in Bryce Trang there. So I'm really kind of against moving him off that position, even though he'd be a fine shortstop, I'm sure. But really, I guess this is where I was to figure out between Ortiz, Trang, and Durbin, do we have those three spots in the infield covered? Possibly.
Well, I wouldn't be upset if there was. I don't like platoons as much as the Brewers seem to do. I wouldn't be upset, I guess, with a soft platoon where you've got Durbin maybe playing a couple different spots off and on and being more of a utility infielder type. But yeah, I see the point of you want somebody better than that back for Devin Williams, your all-star closer. I just don't know that the value was out there for him if we didn't, get somebody that was more valuable. I don't think that the Brewers lack the ability to do due diligence, I guess is my point. Like they're I'm sure trying to get the best players back that they possibly can. I think they probably identified a guy that they like in Durbin and they see, this guy's got a ton of potential. One of those stats that kind of stood out in a good way to me was he's got 110 career since 2021 stolen bases in the minor leagues. He's got 111 strikeouts. It's pretty amazing.
Oh yeah, no, his strikeout debate is really intriguing. However, the one thing about that I will point out, he's 5'6", which means he has a very minuscule real strike zone. So I think that minor league pitchers who overall lack command, let alone control, have a hard time pitching to someone that's 5'6" and throwing them strikes. So if you do have a good batting eye and you're 5'6", you're going to walk a lot in the minor leagues. With that being said, he's a good contact hitter. He doesn't strike out. So the combination of those two things are definitely something that's attractive for any type of prospect. Don't get me wrong. I just think that major league pitchers, when he gets major league level, are going to be able to throw the guy strikes. So he's going to have to make contact.
And you hope he's smart enough to adjust his game as well. I mean, that's the thing. It's a cat and mouse game constantly where pitchers are going to be better in the major leagues and young hitters are going to have to adjust. That's just part of it.
Yeah. So don't get me wrong. I'm really going to be rooting for Caleb Durbin, but also, again, on his negative profile, his exit velocity as a minor leaguer were also nothing to write home about. So there's some worry there, again, about him becoming a regular major league hitter. But we shall see. I mean, overall, you gotta love the speed. I think he's a pretty good defensive second baseman who could probably be pretty adequate at third or even short with limited range. But again, I'm a little bit concerned about the arm. But overall, to me, profiles as a perfect utility type player, actually. And so maybe that will be his ultimate role. Maybe the Brewers are looking to package other prospects to land an everyday third baseman, and then this argument would kind of be for naught, and he'd be a perfect utility guy. With that being said, he does. I mean, he has a very similar, in a lot of ways, profile to the guy the Brewers acquired last offseason, which again, and that's Oliver Dunn, acquired from the Philadelphia Phillies last offseason. Again, played second baseman. The only difference, he's a little bit more power, hits left-handed, great on-base skills, but he did get some chances with the Brewers last year and didn't necessarily impress, in my opinion. And again, he's a little bit older for a prospect too. I think he was 26 last year, is now 27. Caleb Durbin's already 24 years old. So even though he's putting up these good numbers in Arizona Fall League, I mean, I think those numbers should be taken for a little bit of grain of salt due to his age, unfortunately. With that being said,
just to be clear, though, those strikeout numbers are not comparable. Dunn had 40 strikeouts last year, and the interns are going to give me some notes right now. Dunn had 40 strikeouts last year and 95 at bats, and only walked 6 times. So, I mean, I know that there's an adjustment, but I don't think that we're going to see the same level of regression with Caleb Durbin when it comes to his ability to take a walk.
Yeah. But again, those are major league numbers. Caleb Durbin is.
Yeah, I know, but Dunn didn't have those good. Dunn's minor league numbers, I don't think were anywhere near Durbin's. Let's check. I don't think, I guess my point being is, I don't think they're exactly the same type of player. And going back to even his minor league totals, like, let's see, overall, his minor league totals, he has just about double the amount of strikeouts compared to walks.
For Dunn
does. in his
Okay,
minor league
yeah.
career. Yeah, 305 overall career strikeouts in the minor leagues, 169 walks, and then again when it gets to major leagues, 40 strikeouts compared to 6 walks.
Yeah. He was known for getting on
So I
base
mean,
in
yeah,
the
he had
minor
a good, he
leagues.
had a decent,
I
well,
think in almost a
yeah,
thousand
decent OBP, but yeah,
in almost a thousand minor league at bats, he had an over 800 on base percentage. So I mean, that was his skill. He only had 35 home runs and 1,000 at bats in the minor leagues. And if you look at Cale Durham, he only had 22 home runs and over 1,000 at bats in the minor leagues. So again,
right.
that's 10 home run. That's 10 to 15 home run power. That's fine. I mean, if you can steal 40 bases, then that's all that's all that's needed of you. But again, the Brewers, I guess my main concern is the Brewers just lost 30 plus home runs a year from Willie Adames.
Yeah, that's my concern too. That is definitely my concern overall. It's not so much with this trade; it's more with the fact that I haven't seen us come up with a plan to replace Willie Adames' power yet. I mean, to me, that's the far bigger issue that we're going to have to come up with a solution for. And I don't know where you're going to come up with a solution for that. Quite frankly, I don't know how easy that's going to be, but I do think that we need to. I think that the Brewers needed another power bat last year. Well, we still had Willie Adames, so I do think that it's going to be something that the Brewers seriously need to address here in the coming weeks.
And I think that they thought they addressed it last offseason when they signed Rhys Hoskins to a 2-year
Yeah,
contract, well, a 1-year contract with a player option for a second, and then he underperformed, especially in the power department, and then he picked up his option, so he's back with the team. We're going to need much more power out of him this year, and 30,
and
35
hopefully he's
plus
healthy.
home run, assuming that he's healthy. But there
Yeah,
are some rumors out there the Brewers are kicking the cans on some other power hitters, even someone like Paul Goldschmidt. I don't know where they would slot in or whatnot, but I mean, we need to find power somewhere. And again, Matt Arnold, executive there, it's great. I'm not criticizing him in any way, but there's no doubt that we don't necessarily focus on power when developing or when looking for players to bring into the organization. And I'm sorry, not done, but Durbin's another organization or another example of that. But yeah, like I said, it feels like an even enough trade. I felt like it was surprising and an interesting trade that the fact that it's not what I was expecting, but if you're a Brewer fan, you still got to be happy with the fact that it shows the Brewers are, even losing Willie Adames and now Devin Williams, they're planning on contending again in 2025 as well. They should be by bringing for the middle of the rotation arm and Cortes, and then another piece that could help immediately too because he's 24 years old. So it's not like they traded for a 20-year-old with a higher ceiling that's a couple years off. This is no part of their
no,
rebuilding that they traded for win now type of move. And again, that's what bothers me the most about the trade. Because if we're obviously trying to win now in 2025, why not keep Devin Williams? And like you pointed out as well, our bullpen's deeper than our rotation. So and the opposite is true for the Yankees. I don't find that to be particularly the case. I mean, I guess the part that bothers me about the trade now is I do like our rotation, and you can never have too many arms. But I think that DL Hall will probably have to get moved to the bullpen. Aaron Ashby also, if not put at AAA in the starting role, so give us some nice depth. But if you look at our rotation now, we'll have Freddie Peralta at the top of it. Obviously, we'll have
Woodruff.
Woodruff
It's
coming back
hopefully
in
going
some
to. I hope.
capacity, but again, you don't, that's a kind of an unknown. And then, of course, our Aaron Savali has come back, and now we've got Cortes. So that's a really nice top 4. And then Tobias Myers probably slotting even the number
Yeah,
2 spot. So
yeah. We
so
lost
that's a pretty
Colin
deep
Ray
5.
not coming back probably, so that's not bad. Then you've got Ashby Hall as potential starters or relievers, which I think is pretty decent. And and again, I do think that the Brewers were truly in on Garrett Crochet. I think that the talks were serious from what we can tell. I know that Scotty was there covering the winter meetings, but from what I've heard is that the Brewers were number 2 to Boston in picking up Crochet. So I
Really?
think that this was the reaction to us not getting Garrett Crochet, getting a
That,
lefty for the rotation. I think that the Brewers brass has identified the fact that they wanted to get a consistent, I would say, top half of the rotation lefty.
that makes sense. And I think Cortes fits in that mold. And again, the guys, and then of course we have Robert Gasser coming back probably in the second half. again, now we can put him at AAA and make sure he gets innings there, and then having that depth in starting rotation as you go through a long Major League Baseball season is always super valuable. So,
Oh my gosh, yeah. Look at we lost Wade Miley last April. We expected him to be our number 3 starter last year. I mean, look at the guys. Nobody even knew Tobias Meyer's name except for a few diehards, and our interns. It's like, we didn't even know who that was. And Wade Miley was supposed to be, probably our number 3 going into the year last year. Colin Ray was maybe our number 5. Maybe he wouldn't even be a starter. Maybe not even make the team. Like we weren't even talking about what the rotation ended up looking like by the end of the year.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's just as a Brewer fan, like it's kind of a head scratcher as far as like the move you weren't expecting, but it happened. And like I said, I think it still leaves us with a really really solid, a solid and more deeper starting rotation with Cortes in there. It weakens our back of our bullpen, obviously. But like you said, I think there's other guys that they're identifying, and we'll talk about it coming up next week on our Christmas episode with some other lefty relievers they've brought in now, and some other pieces we'll talk about as well as our Christmas wish list coming up. But again, thanks for all your information, Tom C. Again, we'll try to be anonymous as much as possible. And thanks again for the Scott's interns, which again.
No, I appreciate Scott's interns as well. But yeah, always valuable information. I didn't mean to interrupt. I did also just want to say thanks to Devin Williams, quite frankly. Just wanted to really quickly, before we sign off here, go through his overall numbers as a Brewer. Have been incredible. 2019 is when he made his debut. 2020 Rookie of the Year. 2022 All-Star. 2023 All-Star. 2-time National League Reliever of the Year award winner. Overall numbers of 8.9 WAR and a 1.83 ERA during his time as a Brewer with 68 saves, 235 2/3 innings pitched. So quite an impressive run for Devin Williams in Milwaukee. So I just wanted to say thanks to Devin. He was always kind with the fans. He took the time out to sign autographs just about every game that I've seen him play on the road since he made his debut in Milwaukee in 2019. I'm going to miss him. I'm going to miss his airbender, and I hope that he's going to be remembered for much more than, one bad playoff game. So I just wanted to say thanks to Devin. 2013 was when the Brewers drafted him out of high school in Hazelwood, Missouri.
And the walls of the Brewers clubhouse also would like to wish Devin fairly well as
there is that.
As they will also be a little safer coming in the 2025 season. But yeah, no,
there is that.
It's nice there to be some activity. And again, unfortunately, we have lost the Willie Adames, which was we do get a end of first round competitive balance draft pick back for that, though, or not competitive balance, but a supplemental first round draft pick at the end of 2025 draft in return for him signing a huge contract with the San Francisco Giants. It would have been nice for him to go to the American League instead of the National League. That was my thoughts on that. And another former Brewer is out there, Corbin Burns. What is your predictions on where we both whiffed on the Adames one, I guess? But what's
we did.
Your prediction on where Corbin Burns will sign, which probably happen any moment?
Well, honestly, I could see it being the Giants. He's a California guy. I think that he's probably wanting to stay on the West Coast. I don't know, but if I had to pick, I'd kind of guess the Giants, to be totally honest. I think that they're a team that's close to his home, that has money to spend, that's obviously making some, investments in their on-field product. They've got a lot of work to do to keep up with the Dodgers and even the Padres in that division. So, it still is a big market. They still have a big checkbook. I think Buster Posey is going to continue to be aggressive. I'm going to guess the Giants.
All right, good guess. You're probably gonna be right on that one. I'll go with the Blue Jays, like I did for Adames. Again,
wait.
They seem to be like the backup prom date for all these signings, unfortunately. But anyway, yeah. So we'll see what happens with Corbin Burns. But yeah. So I really hope he doesn't sign with the Giants. I really would not want him to both Burns and Adames be on the same team in the National League contending against the Brewers. But we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, again, we'll have a wish list for Antanasio here coming up, and for Matt Arnold in our next episode for Christmas. Some things on our list again, as we'll see. Hopefully we can open up the purse strings a little bit and bring in a top quality free agent or even trade for one. Why not keep the trade lines open? So All right. Well, that wraps us up for today. Thanks for joining, listeners. Make sure to follow us on social media.
Brew. Yeah, Brew Crew Review 1 is our account on X, and you can continue to email us, brewcrewreviewpodcast with an S at gmail.com, where Scotty will get to your questions at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah. And I'm sure all you guys will want to tune in next episode to find out how Scott will save Christmas this year. And yeah, so stay on the edge of your seat for that and stay classy. West Dallas,
Okay.
go Brewers.
All right. Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Chad. Thanks, Scotty. Thanks, Vikram. Go Brewers.